Zip up your members-only jacket, crack open a tab, and pause your Walkman as we bring you to the 1980s.
Welcome to the 80s Show podcast, where we talk about all things 1980s. From movies to TV shows, music and stars, fads and fashions, we'll talk about anything and everything to do with the 1980s.
The 80s, the best decade in decades.
All right, well, welcome to the 80s Show podcast. We are your hosts alongside Damon Raffelli. My name is Bill Lassiter. Thank you for joining us on this tour of the 1980s. It's good to be back, right, Damien?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a
hiatus.
Yeah, hiatus. But like all things 80s, we're going to reboot this thing.
Oh, let's reboot it and make it better than it was before. If that's even possible, I'm not sure. All right, Damien, what do we got going on this program today?
Well, we're going to start off with the 80s remix, 21 Jump Street. Which was better, the original TV series or the new movies?
All right, and we're going to follow that with a segment on champagne wishes and caviar dreams. We're going to talk about the 1980s excess and all those getting rich quick, I'm not going to say schemes, but I'm going to say, get rich plans that were floating around the 1980s.
I love a good 80s excess. One of my favorite movies, Wall Street, with Gordon Gekko.
Gordon Gekko, yep. Greed is good. And what are we going to finish up with, Damien?
Well, we have a special guest coming on, Tony from The Greatest American Hero. He gave us a call, and he wanted to talk about our last segment that we did in the first season and give us a little bit of a rebuttal of how we approached that segment and how we treated him and his fellow classmates.
Yeah, so a guest call-in for the show. This will be amazing. This will be great. So, of course, you can follow us on the Twitters and the Facebook and the Instagram. And if you have any questions or have any ideas for the show, you can always email us at 80sshowpodcast@gmail.com. And I'm really excited about our new sponsor, Damien.
Yeah, we have an exciting new sponsor, Tom Vu.
Tom Vu. And I know that if you follow his plan, you will definitely get rich, right, Damien?
Absolutely. He guarantees it.
He guarantees it.
And you know what he says? Women don't like me. They like me for my money.
All right. Well, let's hear from him right now.
I know after watching me and my student making a lot of money, you got excited and you want to go to my seminar to learn how to make millions yourself. And a lot of your friends will tell you, don't come to the seminar. It's a get-rich-quick plan. But tell them, it is a get-rich-quick plan because life is too short to get rich slow. If someone trying to discourage you, my friend, take a look at them from head to toe. If they are nothing, stay away from them. You want to learn from success, not failure. I never forget what my grandfather told me. There are two kinds of people in life, the doer and the loser. Which one are you? And if you're not willing to spend 3 free hours to learn from a self-made millionaire to maximize your opportunity, you deserve to be broke.
Okay, Bill, we're ready for our first segment, 80s remix, 21 Jump Street.
All right, so we're going to discuss if the the movie remake, is better or the TV show. Now, Damien, Johnny Depp has been in the news a lot. Remember the TV show 21 Jump Street?
Yeah, I certainly do. And he had some legal troubles. I heard about that from my cousin Amber.
I see what you did there. Nice one. All right, so here's the deal. I never watched 21 Jump Street TV show when I was growing up. I just never got around to it, never watched it. And so I watched the movies before I even went back and saw the TV show. But you loved the show back in the day, is that right?
Yeah, I was a big fan of 21 Jump Street. It came out in 1987, so late 80s, went all the way through 1991. There was over 100 episodes.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of the early shows on the Fox network. A lot of people probably don't remember that. This was early days for Fox, and 21 Jump Street was their anchor show that really helped launch Fox into the stratosphere, along with some shows like the Tracy Ullman Show.
Yeah, Tracy Ullman Show, where the Simpsons were born out of that show. So that's pretty cool. So give us like a little bit of a synopsis of the TV show, of the 21 Jump Street TV show.
So the 21 Jump Street was based on police officers who wanted to go in and fight crime in high school.
Right, because all those high school crimes, right?
Yeah. So they were youngest-looking adult police officers who had baby faces, and they had to infiltrate the high-stakes world of teen crime.
Ooh, high-stakes world of teen crime.
And so every week, this undercover squad, they were based out of a chapel located where?
I'm guessing 24 Jump Street?
They do make some fun of that in the movies, which is
Yes.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, 21 Jump Street in the fictional city of Metropolis.
Isn't that where Superman hangs out?
I think it might be. So, they go and they infiltrate high schools. They dress like high schoolers. They try to act like high schoolers, even though they're adults. And they go to take down real criminals that are going wild in high schools.
Yeah.
Whether it's busting a 14-year-old smash and grab paperboy.
Oh, Paperboys. Wow, that brings me back to the 80s. I was a paperboy in the 80s, Amy. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
I did a couple paper outs myself. I even played the video game Paperboy.
Yeah.
There was also they had to take down, for example, a middle-class punk rocker, a group of punk rockers who are hell-bent on spreading anarchy in their high school and their city.
Ooh, you got to watch out for those punk rockers for sure. So I know there were some big stars in that series. Johnny Depp is one that we always think about. Who else was in that series?
So Holly Robinson was in it, and she,
Okay.
in fact, she sang the TV theme song for 21 Jump Street.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
Peter DeLuise, who was
Dom DeLuise's son. That's all I know him from is from 21 Jump Street and from the movie and the TV show. I don't know if he did anything else besides that.
Yeah, Peter DeLuise looked like he was about 40 in the 80s. Right?
Yeah. He was follically challenged, I think, too. Is what happened.
And Dustin Nguyen, who played Harry Truman Aoki.
Harry Truman Aoki.
Yes.
Now, I think I heard something about one of the controversial episodes with was he the detective Wynn or something like that? Something controversial happened in that episode. What was that?
Yeah, that was in the first season. It was called The episode name was America, What a Town.
Okay.
And it was about a high school student who was a foreign exchange student who came from Poland. So this is, again, during the Cold War. So it's a big deal.
There we go. Yeah.
This is the Soviet Union back then.
Very scared.
And the whole theme of the TV show was communism versus capitalism. So
Okay.
very big in the 80s. We got Ronald Reagan still president in 1987.
Gotcha.
And Nadia, she was a wild child. She wanted to experience all the excesses and the decadence of America.
Sure. 1980s, America was very decadent for sure.
And she was looking for a husband so she could get her American citizenship, her green card and an American citizenship.
All right.
The interesting thing was Aoki, who was in the show an adult police officer,
Right.
undercover as a high school student, makes out with Nadia, who was a high school student.
Okay. All right. That's, I would say that's pretty controversial. They kind of play on that in the movie a little bit, but we'll get to that in a second. So what were some of the other episodes and the themes that happened in those episodes back in the original TV show?
Yeah, absolutely. One other famous person before we get to that, Richard Grieco.
Oh, yep.
Booker.
Richard Grieco.
He had those very beautifully waxed eyebrows.
Hey, everybody needs a waxed eyebrow every once in a while, right? So I also heard something about, talk about like they apparently one of the very first PSAs that came in the middle of a TV show or on a TV show happened on 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, in fact, I believe it was the first show that used their own actors to do PSAs at the end of the TV show.
Okay. All right. And what was that about?
So season 2 is where they did their first PSA in the episode titled A Big Disease with a Little Name. So
A big disease. So I'm guessing herpes?
yeah, herpes was pretty rampant in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
But no, this one was about AIDS.
Oh, okay. Yep. That makes sense. Big disease, a little name.
And the episode was it really hit a very controversial topic of AIDS and also tackled homophobia.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. That's pretty progressive for that time,
Yeah, it really was. And so Tom Hansen was our famous Johnny Depp. He was assigned to a high school to protect a high school student who had AIDS. And he was being threatened with violence by other parents and kids, and there was a lot of people who were scared, of it. And remember, there was a lot
of fear back then about that. Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of anti-gay culture in the 80s. And Hansen ended up becoming friends with the kid, and Hansen learned to become more empathetic about, AIDS and diseases and people who are different than him.
Hi, I'm Johnny Depp of 21 Jump Street. I don't know a whole lot about AIDS, but I want to introduce you to a couple of guys who do. Dr. Robert Wyndham, the Assistant Secretary for Health, and the Surgeon General of the United States, Dr. C. Everett Koop.
So, as you kind of give your overall thoughts of the series, I also heard something about Johnny Depp not really wanting to be part of the series because he got famous real quick overnight. What'd you hear about that?
Yeah, he got famous really fast, and he became the superstar of the show. He was on Tiger Beat and all those teen heartthrob magazines. You remember you had them posted on your walls back then, Bill. I remember hearing about that.
Maybe not. Let's not be homophobic here, doing it.
Your New Kids on the Block post.
Yes.
And so he actually tried to get fired off the TV show because he didn't. He was actually becoming also very famous and had a lot of movie role opportunities, but he was locked into a contract. So he was actually trying to actively get fired. And he was also a musician, so he really wanted to be a musician as well as he's doing now on the side, as well. So he's a unique person. I like Johnny Depp. He's very, very unique, and he's got his own way of doing things.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing I do like about 21 Jump Street is it really broke that typical movie, a TV trope of where crime is mostly, especially in the 80s, where it's just lower class crime, lower economic communities.
Right.
And so they focused on middle and upper class teen crime, which is really what this country still needs to focus on. That's really
it's the middle class teen crime is it's running rampant in all the cities everywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The higher the income, the more crime we're seeing.
I gotcha. Well, okay, so that's a great synopsis of the TV show, and of course, for our listeners, the first 21 Jump Street movie came out in 2012, Damien. So just a few years ago. Here's what's crazy about this. I thought was pretty nuts. Was the budget for that movie was $42 million, but it grossed $201 million worldwide. That's a pretty good return on investment there.
That's a massive return.
Yeah. So, of course, it stars Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, Ice Cube, who is fantastic in that movie. A very not young, but Brie Larson before she really hit superstardom, and of course, Dave Franco. Tell me about there were some cameos in this from the original TV show, right?
Yeah, most of the original cast of 21 Jump Street, the TV show, made cameos in this. Holly Robinson, she reprised her role as Officer Hoffs. And then we saw Johnny Depp and Peter DeLuise. We saw them early on in the movie, but we didn't know
it was them. Yeah,
they had a lot of makeup on there. I believe they were now working in the DEA.
Yeah, that was great. I heard that Brie Larson didn't even recognize Johnny Depp on set when he was in his makeup. Like she didn't know it was him. That was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I could see that because I didn't recognize him until the very end. I had no idea it was him. And I think it's Dustin Nguyen was his cameo was actually on a TV. It was in one of the TVs playing in the hotel room at the very end. And
Gotcha. That's awesome. And I know that Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, they're such method actors. Apparently that during the house party scene that they were completely hammered in real life and stuff. Which I was like, all right, you're really taking one for the team there, guys. So. So they had a lot of star power, and of course they did have a sequel, 22 Jump Street, where they go to college, which is also a very funny movie. And the other thing I appreciate about both those movies is there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek jokes about rebooting things from the 80s or rebooting things from the past, and they really play on that the whole time in both of those films.
Yeah, I thought that's what really made it funny. And they do a lot of different nods to the 80s and the original series, which I like too. So besides the tongue-in-cheek and all the cameos that come in, even Jenko, who's Channing Tatum's character, is driving a Mustang, of course.
Yeah.
And,
right.
And Johnny Depp's character drove a Mustang in the TV show. So there's a lot of fun things like that. I thought the 21 and 22 Jump Street were hilarious.
I agree. And so... when you think about, so I know that you also did kind of a rewatch of some of the episodes of 21 Jump Street. Does it still stand up? Do you think that it still stands up from the original, 1980s, stuff going on then? Still enjoyable? Do you still like to, watch it and stuff?
Yeah, not too long ago, I binged all the top-rated episodes. So I went to IMDb just to see what the top-rated 21 Jump Street episodes were, and I binged all of them. I had fun watching. I mean, it's definitely a good amount of 80s cheese, especially that it's overly dramatic in almost a funny kind of way.
Yeah.
But it just brought back a lot of memories from the 80s and how we tackled things and how we looked at things compared to how we look at them now.
Yeah, very cool. And I also know that you noticed some like very famous guest stars that happened to be like, in the background or just in one episode or two episodes. So who were some of those guest stars that you saw?
So there was a lot of people who eventually became famous that guest starred on that. Brad Pitt.
Okay. Yeah.
Vince Vaughn.
Nice.
Christina Applegate.
Okay.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Wow.
Jason Priestley. I think he played. He might have played in that with the one with the punk rockers. And because I remember watching that one. Of course, Shannon Doherty.
Okay.
And then Josh Brolin, of course, of Goonies fame.
All right. Well, that's interesting that thinking about Christina Applegate and Jason Priestley and Shannon Doherty, because all of them ended up starring on TV shows on Fox, after 21 Jump Street, which they probably got their break from the show and then ended up on, Married with Children and Beverly Hills 90210 and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there were a lot of 90s superstars that came out of that TV show.
Yeah. So as we wrap this up, Damien, what, comparing the movies to the TV show, what is better? Or can you even say that?
It's very, very difficult to compare because the TV show was a drama, like a crime drama, and the TV shows were the movies were slapstick comedies.
Yeah.
I will say of all the 80s reboots, I think the movies were some of the best 80s reboots I've ever seen.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, I didn't really get into the TV show that much. I've seen a couple episodes, but I just thought the movies were great, were hilarious, and anybody whatever age would watch it, and you didn't have to know the TV show to appreciate the movies, which I thought was pretty cool too. Like my son, who's 19, he loves those movies, and he's never seen the TV show, so I think that the movie stands up pretty well.
Yeah, and I think it might give the younger generations an interest in the original TV series too.
Yeah.
Probably might expect it to be a comedy, which they're going to be a little bit disappointed in.
Where's the funny stuff going to happen? Yeah, exactly. So, all right, Damien, that was a great synopsis of 21 Jump Street. Any last thoughts?
I will say, if you haven't seen the TV show, Bill, you should go out and watch a few episodes. I'll post the list of the top-rated episodes from IMDb and where you can find them on streaming services, and maybe even have your sons watch them with you and just see what they think, because as a younger generation.
That would be interesting. That'd be interesting. All right. Perfect, man. That sounds good.
He has the trappings of a rock star, the possessions of a mighty mogul, and the unique style of the one and only Randy Macho King Savage.
All right. Welcome to the next segment here on the 80s Show podcast, Champagne Wishes and Caviar Dreams. Amy, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to be talking about the decadence of the 1980s. The decade of greed.
The decade of greed, indeed. So, we have a little clip there of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. It was a very popular TV show back in the 80s. I remember watching this with my mom, just sitting on the couch watching it. And Robin Leach, I always thought like he was like a multimillionaire, and that's why he was hosting this show. But I don't think he was.
He had that fancy British accent.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you have a British accent, you sound like you're rich, So, so as we were doing some research on this, we were looking up some of the episodes on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And so a lot of famous people were featured on this show.
Yeah, there were a lot. And, I remember watching this, it was on, prime time, but it's also on the weekends. Yeah. As well. I think it was probably the reruns. I remember like on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon watching this.
Yeah.
And probably not the best influence for an 11-year-old kid to be right.
Exactly.
But I love seeing how the other side lived. I didn't grow up with money.
Yeah, exactly. And just even the opening of the helicopters flying around on beachfront properties and a bunch of fancy cars and stuff like that. And it was almost like, anybody could do that. Anybody could be that rich, and so, Who are some of the celebrities that were featured on that show?
There was a lot of celebrities, famous 80s actors and musicians and even wrestlers. Musicians like Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I think it was in 1988 he was featured. Even Nell Carter was on there.
Oh, Nell Carter from Give Me a Break. So Give Me a Break. Yeah, Nell Carter. I also saw Liberace. And, of course, he always toned it down. Like everything was toned, muted with him, right?
Yeah, he's very subtle.
Yeah, very subtle. Liberace, I'm sure that episode is fantastic. Who else was featured on that show?
Well, a number of wrestlers. I know we're both big wrestling fans. Yeah. Hulk Hogan was on there.
Okay, Hulk Hogan. Yeah. Who else?
Which is kind of funny because I'm not sure how much they were actually making as wrestlers back then.
I don't think. Yeah, I think that they were not making very much money back then, but it's probably part of Vince McMahon's way to sell wrestling to the mainstream. Get those guys featured.
Exactly. I mean, they were traveling, I think, back then to like 250 days a year.
Yeah, crazy.
So who knows if they were, rented houses or whatever that weren't even theirs.
Right.
But one of my favorite wrestlers was also on there, Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nice. I also saw, they featured the New Kids on the Block. And so that's like really early in their career. So I always wonder if, do you think they probably have that same amount of money now? One of them might.
Yeah, exactly.
one of them might. I also saw Rick James. Rick James was featured on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, which is fantastic.
I love Rick James. He's classic for that show too.
Yeah, but that's perfect. So lots of different celebrities, including Michael Jackson, Marie Osmond, Linda Carter, Wonder Woman, right?
Yeah, Morgan Fairchild,
Elizabeth Taylor, of course. I always think of 80s excess. I think of Elizabeth Taylor. She always tried to portray that to the media and stuff like that. So,
our generation's James Bond. Roger Moore.
Yeah, Roger Moore was, and even, not the best James Bond, but
yes. And another famous British person, Princess Diana.
Oh, there you go. Princess Diana was featured. So, that show just exemplified 80s excess, highlighting how rich people are. And of course, there's a ton of TV shows and movies in the 80s that showed that as well.
Yeah, there was a few shows I used to watch with my grandmother.
There you go.
Like Dynasty, where the Carringtons, I think they had like 20 Rolls Royces.
Yeah, because 19 is not enough. 19 Rolls Royces is not enough. So, of course, Dallas was all about, money and excess and, JR and all that kind of stuff. So,
and who did kill JR?
No spoilers. Still
Sorry.
confused about that. So,
and then a classic movie, which we already mentioned, which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Of course it is, Damien, you capitalist.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
Gordon Gekko. It's a funny side note. Damien and I went to a college with a friend of ours, and he will remain nameless, but he idolized Gordon Gekko in college. And I remember he even for a time slicked his hair back just like Gordon Gekko. And sure enough, the guy's a 1%er now, so he did pretty well for himself. Yeah, it worked for him. So.
Although I do think that the actual hero of the movie was Charlie Sheen's character, who found a moral high ground at the end.
Maybe. I mean, it just depends. I mean, it was in 1980, so excess was good. Greed was good. So.
I guess some people would look at Charlie Sheen as a loser.
That's a good point.
His character, I mean, not him, but his character.
That's a good point. And so, of course, with the 80s excess, there were some, I don't want to say get rich quick schemes. I don't want to use the word scheme, Damien, but...
No, we don't want to insult our sponsor, our new sponsor.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Vu. I'm sorry if you're listening to this.
Because we do seem to have trouble holding on to sponsors.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, of course, Tom Vu came around and, had these seminars. And so what do we got about those?
So if you remember some of those infomercials he would run, he would be on a yacht with beautiful girls in bikinis.
Right, yeah.
And like I said at the beginning, one thing he would say is, women don't like me; they like my money.
Yeah, of course. And of course, he was famous for saying, don't listen to your friends; they're losers. So just very good advice there.
Yeah, and for only $16,000 in 1985, you could have gone to one of his seminars.
Oh, only six. Well, that doesn't sound too bad, Damien.
No, because if you're broke, I mean, that's about 50,000 in today's dollars.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
But yeah, so it's if you're broke, all you had to do is come up with like 50 grand. No big deal.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, he did promise. I mean, he did say, it's a get rich quick plan. And tell him, it's a get rich quick plan because life is too short to get rich slow.
That's right.
Makes sense to me, Damien. Makes sense to me. So, what else do we know about Tom Vu, our illustrious, wonderful sponsor of this show?
What I love about Tom Vu and his ilk back, in the 80s, who would have these kind of infomercials and these opportunities to get rich quickly, was the mentality of, hey, if that moron can do it, I can do it too.
Right? Exactly. Oh man, and he would say the only catch is you got to get off your butt and do it. I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
It's that simple.
Yeah, it's capitalism at its finest, Damien. I mean, that's what the 1980s is all about. I mean, we were in a Cold War fighting against the opposite of capitalism, and so and we won that war, right, Damien?
That's right. Capitalism wins every time.
Capitalism wins every time. So, of course, the 1980s was the decade of greed. And, of course, as we know from our friend's hero, greed is good.
And greed is right.
Well, next year on the 80s Show podcast, we have a special call-in guest who would like to respond to our Greatest American Hero episode, which was called Billy Katz, a.k.a. Mr. H. Tony Villicana, one of Mr. Hinckley's students. Welcome, Mr. Villicana.
You can call me Tony V, Tony the Switchblade, or Tony Two Shoes. Or, just Tony.
Okay.
Hey, I was listening to your podcast, and I heard you was talking about me and the rest of Mr. H's class. First, I ain't no grease reject. But my cousin Tony and my sister Marie, they was extras in Grease.
Wait, Tony, your name's Tony, and your cousin's name is Tony?
Yeah, I'm Italian. We're all Tony and Marie's or Maria's.
Okay, all right.
And my Uncle Tony, he worked catering on Grease, too.
Okay.
And my second cousin Marie, she banged a guy who kind of looked like John Travolta.
I guess good for her. All right, so you wanted to talk to us about some things.
Yeah, Whitney High, man, those was some times. I don't appreciate you saying we looked old. We was normal age youths. It was the 80s.
Youths, okay, go ahead.
We all looked like we was 20 years older than we really was. And we didn't need no permission slips for no field trips because it was the 80s. We was all latchkey youths.
Now, Tony, have you ever seen the movie My Cousin Vinny?
No, why do you ask? And we wasn't no short bus special kids either, like you guys said.
Whoa, okay, hey, listen, we never use that term, and that is not okay to say anymore.
Whatever. They call it a remedial education. And I ain't really knows what that means. But Mr. H, hey, he was good people. He wasn't no teacher of the year like Mr. L here, but he kept us off the streets.
All right. What were you doing?
We wasn't no ruffian character types. Collecting hubcaps, that was just a hobby. And those switchblades, Mr. H liberated, was just for cutting up apples and other such fruits. I wasn't no ruffian hoodlum like you guys said.
All right. Well, I appreciate you correcting the record. So what did you do after graduating from Whitney High School?
Well, I was a guest of the state for a bit.
So, Tony, just so you know, we're on a podcast, so nobody can see it if you use air quotes like you just did when you said guest. Could you elaborate what that means?
I sort of got busted for stealing hubcaps and having a concealed switchblade. Who knew them things was illegal? Mr. H's wife, Pam, she did her Lorian thing. Did you know women can be lawyers nowadays?
Well, it's a very progressive time, 1980s.
Man, she looks smoking hot in the business suit, let me tell you. Mr. H is a lucky dude. Anyway, she kept me from being an extended guest. of the state.
Again, air quotes are not necessary, but that's right. So what about the rest of your classmates? Rhonda, Paco, Cycler?
We kind of lost touch. Them's somewhere's, out there. They're doing their own things. I think a couple of them were also, they were accommodated by the state for a little whiles.
Okay, all right. So, interesting because I just want to know, Tony V, where are you originally from?
I'm from Pasadena.
Oh, and hence the accent. All right, well, Tony Two Shoes, Tony the Switchblade, or Tony, thank you for being a guest on the podcast and setting the record straight. Ooh, Damien, what's that sound? I think that's the fax. Let me take a look at it. Oh, looks like we lost another sponsor, Damien. Tom Vu, no longer in business.
Yeah, apparently he got sued by all of his former students.
All of them sued him, huh? Well, I guess, that's what happens when you don't get off your butt and do it yourself, right?
Yeah, now we have to find another sponsor. We're going to have our sales team out there hustling.
Okay, well, if you're interested in sponsoring the 80 Show podcast, you can hit us up on all the Twitters and the Facebook, and you can always email us at 80showpodcast@gmail.com.
Or shoot us a fax.
That works just as good.
Well, that's it for today's episode. So, Bill, what do we have coming up next?
All right, next episode, we're going to have a debate about the Karate Kid, or some people would say the Karate Kid. Alongside that, we'll have the top 5 80s sitcom parents. And finally, we're going to wrap it up with a 1980s movie sequel pitch for the iconic and classic movie E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to hear what your pitch is. You've been working on this for a while. You've been kind of teasing it, but I don't know what your sequel pitch is going to be.
I've got a winner for sure. So, make sure that you rate us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you find this podcast. And how else can they interact with us, Damien?
You can email us at 80showpodcast@gmail.com. We're on all the socials, Twitter, I guess, which is X now, 80 Show Podcast, Facebook, Insta, 80 Show Podcast there as well, or our website.
Our website is 80s.show, and, tell your friends about this podcast. And alongside Damien Raffelli, I'm Bill Lassiter. Until next time, may your life be filled with champagne wishes and caviar dreams.
And as they say on 21 Jump Street, we don't just enforce the law, we live it. Theme song composed by my good friend, fellow rock star, straight out of Bakersfield. You may also know him from the band Videodrone, Mark Russell Davis.